So, hello and welcome to the second annual Growup Conference Psychedelic Summit. My name is Cy Williams, and today we will be examining the cultural roots of the modern medical psychedelic renaissance, along with a psychedelic overview 101 for the neophyte out there. It is an honor to be welcomed and allowed to work on the lands of the Luwunkin people, also known as the Songhees Nation and Esquimalt First Nations community. I want to thank everyone who has traveled and gone out of their way to be here today. As many of you know, psychedelic substances have been around for millennia, used by cultures across the globe as medicine and in ceremony. Now, thanks to the persevering work of advocates, researchers, scientists, First Nations, and therapists from all backgrounds, we see these medicines now being used to treat PTSD, depression, anxiety, eating disorders, addiction, and much, much more. As Paul Stamets, founder of Mycomedica and star of the documentary Fantastic Fungi on Netflix, has said, these are no longer party drugs for young people. Now, for those of you who know or don't know, I am the long-standing editor and publisher of High Canada magazine, which is a quintessentially Canadian, cannabis-centric printed monthly magazine. We have been publishing since 2014 monthly, and during this time we have focused on cannabis in particular and plant medicine overall. For the last 8 years, we have been disseminating information and education to Canadians on all aspects of the multifaceted industry that is cannabis in Canada. Now, we at High Canada Magazine particularly love talking to the people behind the plant, the journeys they take, the roads that got them there. There's a Rumi quote that sums my journey up, and it goes like this: as you start to walk on the way appears. Now, one of the things that I love about psychedelics and the new psychedelic industry in Canada and abroad are the amazing conversations I am seeing take place. I've seen so many of my friends, colleagues, and associates start the conversation on psychedelics. Now, for the last 8 years, we have been very effective at disseminating information and education about cannabis. But over the last 3 or 4 years, we started having to put more psychedelic-based content in the magazine, to the point that every month I could be putting out a 200-page magazine, half of that on psychedelics, half of that on cannabis. We quickly realized that we were going to need to build another platform to help the psychedelic message and make sure that the psychedelic message comes through to Canadians. Now, with the legalization of cannabis in 2018, many people that I knew from the Canadian cannabis space, as I said, were turning their attentions to other types of plant medicine, and in particular, the topic of psychedelics was shifted to the forefront of most of the conversations we were having. Again, as I mentioned, our own media platforms began to feature more and more content about the blossoming psychedelic space in Canada and internationally. In 2020, we realized that psychedelics in Canada had to have a space and a platform of their very own. And in 2021, summer 2021, we took the leap of faith. A leap of faith that is required in almost all important decisions and all historic situations. And we started Psychedelic Canada magazine, a new monthly printed magazine dedicated to informing and educating our readers, Canadians, and those people internationally about all things psychedelics in Canada and again, internationally. And let me tell you, if you thought that the cannabis industry, the cannabis space was complicated, well, you haven't seen anything yet, because the psychedelic space is so complex. You know, you open the door to learning a little bit about psychedelics, and even opening the door a tiny crack, and that involves learning about dozens and dozens of different varieties of psilocybin, also known as magic mushrooms to those in the know. Pushing that door open just another smidgen reveals reams of information and research into medical applications involving psilocybin, research into both microdosing and macrodosing psilocybin, a plethora of anecdotal information, first-person accounts, documentaries, YouTube videos, an impressively huge underground market that has risen out of the newfound popularity of psilocybin microdosing, and opening the door just a tiny crack more reveals the rise of corporate and pharmaceutically based psychedelic companies. Remember, our allegorical door, our metaphorical door is only open maybe this much. We open it a little bit further, and we discover the deep and spiritually nourishing side of psychedelics. You start to realize that what you think you know about psychedelics is actually very little. And you start to realize how deep the rabbit hole actually goes. And then you start to realize how many types of psychedelics there are out there besides psilocybin variations that come with that fungi. Now, off the top of my head, there's MDMA, ketamine, mescaline, ayahuasca, ibogaine, LSD, and DMT. And these are only general headings, as each of the psychedelics that I just listed are as easily as complex a topic as psilocybin is. Now, time for another Rumi quote. Rumi tells us that the garden of the world has no limits, except in your mind. Now, I find this quote applies so very well to the psychedelic space in Canada and internationally, because we are still learning, still doing research, still having those conversations, still gaining public support. And we are still at the very beginning of a very long road. But one road that I believe will totally disrupt the billion-dollar industry that is healthcare in Canada and internationally. We are constantly finding amazing applications for an array of psychedelics, and from my perspective, these applications are improving quality of life for those involved. The possibilities seem endless. And it is a distinct honor to be standing here today before you as we embark on this day-long conversation and Psychedelic Summit to discuss medicinal psychedelics, cultivation, policies, business insights, the latest innovations, and to hear from some of the brightest and most brilliant minds in the psychedelic world about what the state of psychedelics is in Canada today. Today will be a day to learn, to engage, and to network with like-minded individuals who are also interested and passionate about how the future of psychedelics in Canada will unfold. Before I introduce you to our next amazing speaker, I would like to take the opportunity to share one last Rumi quote with you. Now think of this as a Rumi hat trick, because I did 3 of them. This particular quote resonates very deeply with me, and I feel that it encapsulates my own personal psychedelic and cannabis journey very well, and I hope it resonates with you as well. I find it very inspiring, and the quote goes like this. Yesterday I was clever, so I wanted to change the world. Today I am wise, so I am changing myself. Some inspirational words to kick off our day. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to the founder and master grower of BC Cannabis Inc., the co-founder of Shaman Psychedelics, this month's High Canada Magazine cover and feature interview. That's the new issue 73 of High Canada Magazine. Also my fellow Growup Conference advisory member, co-programmer, and co-organizer of today's Psychedelic Summit, my friend, the one and only, Albert Ipinga. Thank you.